I was falsely accused of sexual assault by my wife's BFF and got divorced, but my wife came crawling back when I sued for defamation and got her locked up. I'm 34 years old and had been married to Sarah for 6 years. We met in college, where we bonded over late-night study sessions, shared pizzas, and dreams of a future together. After graduation, we got married, settled in a modest house, and even started talking about starting a family. On the surface, everything was picture perfect. Friends and family envied our seemingly unbreakable bond. However, there was one dark spot in our otherwise happy life: Sarah's best friend, Lisa. Lisa and Sarah had grown up together, and Lisa was a constant presence in our lives. At first, I brushed off the occasional snarky comment or the subtle ways in which Lisa would insinuate that I wasn't man enough or responsible enough for Sarah. I thought I could ignore it, believing that as long as I loved Sarah, nothing would ever threaten our bond. I was wrong. Over time, Lisa's behavior became more intrusive. During dinners, she'd casually ask, "So, do you think he really makes you happy?" Or, "I just can't imagine you trusting him completely." At first, I chalked it up to her overprotectiveness. She had been in Sarah's life longer than I had, but those red flags kept piling up. I would catch her glancing at me with a mix of disdain and something else I couldn't quite decipher. I tried not to let it get to me, but deep down, there was an uneasiness I couldn't shake. Despite my misgivings, I always maintained that actions spoke louder than words. I focused on being a good husband and providing for our future. Yet the tension in our triangle was an undercurrent that would soon erupt into a life-altering catastrophe. It was early spring when our mutual friends organized a birthday bash at a friend's spacious house. I was in a good mood. Sarah and I had planned to celebrate a recent promotion of mine. Lisa, of course, was there as well, laughing and mingling with everyone. I kept to a small group of friends during the night, discussing work, future plans, and just enjoying the casual vibe of the party. I distinctly remember how Sarah and Lisa stayed together most of the evening, leaving me mostly with my own circle. The party was loud, filled with clinking glasses, upbeat music, and plenty of chatter. I didn't pay much attention to Lisa's occasional sideways glances, assuming they were nothing more than her habitual mischief. Before I knew it, the party was winding down. I hugged Sarah goodbye, exchanged casual words with Lisa and a few others, and headed home with the feeling that nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Little did I know, that night would be twisted into something I could have never imagined. A few days after the party, I came home early from work, expecting nothing more than a quiet evening with Sarah. Instead, I found her in the living room, her eyes red and puffy, and her hands trembling as she clutched a cup of tea. Something was off. "Can we talk?" she said, her voice wavering. I sat down, not knowing what to expect. After a few minutes of heavy silence, she finally said the words that froze me. "Lisa told me that you assaulted her at the party." For a moment, I thought she was joking. My mind refused to process such a ludicrous claim. "Assaulted?" I repeated, my voice catching. "What do you mean?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she explained in a shaky monotone. "She said you cornered her when I wasn't looking, that you touched her in a way that wasn't right. I can't believe this, but I believe her." I tried to speak, to explain that there was no way I could have done something so out of character. "Sarah, you know me. I would never do that. I wasn't even alone with Lisa that night." But her face was blank, her expression resolute. "I don't know what to think," she admitted, "but I need time." Before I could even plead my case, she gathered a few belongings and left for her parents' house, leaving me alone with a rapidly disintegrating reality. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Almost immediately, mutual friends started messaging me, their texts laced with disappointment and judgment. "I can't believe you'd do something like that," some said, while others left me on read. I even received anonymous calls accusing me of being a monster. Within days, I got a call from the local police station requesting me to come in for questioning about the alleged incident. The situation was spiraling fast. I knew I was innocent, but a false accusation like this could destroy a man's life. I decided that I needed legal representation immediately, and thankfully, I managed to find a competent lawyer who specialized in defamation and criminal defense. The police interviews were nerve-wracking. I was grilled about every detail of that party, the people I was with, the timeline, and even my whereabouts at every hour. I cooperated fully, providing the names of friends who could confirm that I was never alone with Lisa. I also mentioned that the host's house had security cameras installed in several key areas. As the investigation unfolded, I started receiving sporadic texts from Sarah. Initially, they were accusatory, filled with hurt and betrayal. "I don't know how you could do this," one message read. I tried explaining that I was innocent and that I wanted the truth to come out, but the more I said, the less she seemed to care. The turning point came when my lawyer recommended that we check the security footage from the party. When the police retrieved the tapes, the evidence was irrefutable. The cameras showed that I was nowhere near the area where Lisa claimed the assault occurred. In fact, during the crucial moments, I was seen laughing and talking with a group of friends in a well-lit area, with multiple witnesses present. Not only that, but the footage also captured Lisa in several scenes, laughing with others, dancing, and even engaging in flirtatious behavior with someone else. There were glaring inconsistencies in her story. The timeline she provided didn't match up with the video, and several details were obviously fabricated. Armed with this undeniable proof, my lawyer filed a counterclaim for defamation against Lisa. The courtroom became a battleground where every piece of evidence, every security clip, and every testimony chipped away at the false narrative she had built. During the trial, the prosecutor emphasized the severity of filing a false police report, especially in cases of alleged sexual assault, a charge that can ruin lives. Lisa's defense crumbled when former acquaintances testified about her history of fabricating stories for attention. It turned out that Lisa wasn't a one-time liar. She had a pattern of twisting the truth to manipulate those around her. The final verdict was both vindicating and bittersweet. The judge ruled in my favor, ordering Lisa to pay substantial damages for the harm she had caused. Worse for her, the evidence and testimonies also led to her being charged with filing a false police report, resulting in jail time. Justice had been served, but the victory was marred by the irreparable damage done to my personal life. While I was regaining my footing, my wife's actions during this entire ordeal left a deep scar. In the midst of the trial, as the truth was slowly coming to light, Sarah's silence had grown deafening. There were days when I'd wait by the phone, hoping for a call, a text, anything that indicated she was reconsidering her stance. Then, one chilly evening, I got a text message from an unknown number. It read, "I made a mistake. Can we talk?" It was Sarah. I didn't respond immediately. I needed time to think, to process the betrayal and the injustice of it all. But over the next few weeks, she persisted. Emails, phone calls, even a handwritten letter delivered to my doorstep. In her messages, she pleaded for forgiveness, saying that she'd been manipulated by her lifelong friend, that her emotions had clouded her judgment, and that she missed the man she once loved. I eventually agreed to meet her in a quiet coffee shop on the outskirts of town. The meeting was painfully awkward. Sarah was visibly distraught, her eyes red from crying. She apologized profusely and said that she realized she'd been blinded by her loyalty to Lisa. "I was so scared," she confessed between sobs. "Scared of losing my best friend, scared of being alone. But I never thought I'd lose you." I listened, my mind numb. I had to ask the one question that haunted me from the moment she left that fateful day. "Did you ever, even for a second, consider that I might be telling the truth?" Her eyes darted away and she couldn't meet my gaze. That silence spoke louder than words. In that moment, I realized that the trust we once had was irrevocably broken. I told her that while I appreciated her apology, the damage was done. I had spent months fighting to clear my name and rebuild my life, and I wasn't about to risk everything again by diving into a relationship built on misplaced trust and manipulated emotions. In the months that followed the trial, I worked hard to rebuild my reputation and my life. The legal victory, while gratifying, came at a high emotional price. I immersed myself in work and leaned on true friends who had stuck by me despite the storm of public opinion. I even took up therapy to sort through the trauma of being falsely accused and the betrayal by the person I loved most. I started receiving support from unexpected quarters. Friends who had once doubted me reached out with apologies and kind words. I began to understand that sometimes people are swayed by rumors and fear more than by evidence or reason. Slowly, I rebuilt my sense of self and my confidence. I even received a promotion at work, a bittersweet reminder that while I had been through hell, I was still standing. Meanwhile, Lisa's case became a cautionary tale. Her jail time wasn't just punishment for her actions, it served as a stark warning that lies, especially those that destroy lives, will eventually be exposed. The media picked up the story, and for a while I was the victim of a twisted scandal, a label I never wanted but couldn't escape due to circumstances beyond my control. Even as the dust settled legally, the emotional fallout lingered. Sarah, having tried to reclaim the pieces of her old life, began to realize the magnitude of her error. Mutual friends, too, started to distance themselves from her now that the truth was undeniable. One evening, after several failed attempts to get me to give us another chance, Sarah showed up at my door once more. She was disheveled, apologetic, and desperate. "I can't sleep," she said, voice trembling. "Every night I keep replaying everything, and I know I was wrong. I miss you. I miss us." She pleaded with tearful eyes that I had seen before, asking if there was any way to start over. But by then, I had learned my lesson. Trust, once broken, doesn't simply mend with apologies and time. I had spent too many sleepless nights fighting for my innocence while watching the woman I loved abandon me at the first sign of trouble. I told her firmly that while I wished her healing, I wasn't prepared to reopen wounds that had festered for too long. I continued to build a new life on my own terms, a life defined by honesty, resilience, and the understanding that some betrayals run too deep to ever be fully repaired. Reflections on betrayal and justice. Looking back, it's surreal to think how quickly everything unraveled. I went from having what I thought was an unbreakable marriage to fighting for my very identity in a courtroom. The ordeal taught me that trust isn't just about love, it's about believing in the truth, even when it's inconvenient. Lisa's betrayal wasn't just a personal attack, it was a manipulation that took advantage of human emotions and long-held bonds. And while the legal system eventually set things right, the scars remain as reminders of how fragile relationships can be when lies are allowed to fester unchecked. The whole experience has reshaped my perspective on relationships, loyalty, and personal boundaries. I now understand that sometimes the people you trust the most can be the ones who betray you, and that it's essential to stand firm in your truth even when everyone else seems to have turned against you. Today, I'm still healing, but I'm also stronger. I've learned to be cautious with my heart, to value honesty above blind loyalty, and to never let anyone dictate the narrative of my life. I've even started a blog where I share my journey, hoping to help others who might find themselves caught in a web of betrayal and false accusations. As for Sarah, she's trying to rebuild her life too. We occasionally cross paths at mutual gatherings, but the spark we once had has long been extinguished. I wish her well, but I've moved on, both emotionally and legally, from a past that nearly destroyed me. To anyone reading this who might be going through a similar nightmare, remember? The truth has a way of surfacing, and sometimes justice is slow but inevitable. Trust your instincts, stand your ground, and never be afraid to fight for what's right, even when it seems like the whole world is against you. There you have it, a raw, unfiltered account of betrayal, legal warfare, and the bittersweet aftermath. I never imagined that my life could take such a drastic turn, but now I know that every trial can be a lesson in strength and resilience. Thanks for reading. And remember, sometimes the worst betrayals pave the way for the most profound personal transformations.